I'm Saakshi Singla, a child development expert, family counselor, and a youth mentor from New Delhi. I would like to welcome you all at Inark Power Talks. Today I'm talking about a topic we haven't been addressing in our schools consciously. I feel most of the problems in this world go back to how we parent and teach our kids and the kind of gender equal environment our children grew up in. By the age of 2 or 3, children grasp gender biases. Consciously or unconsciously, parents, teachers, and peers coax children into a restricted set of choices based on their gender. These aren't just blue or pink color choice, but a plethora of identity-shaping roles. As young as age 6, girls start to perceive themselves as less intelligent, less clever than boys. According to a research, it is shown that this is something that stays with them for very long, or maybe sometimes for their entire lifetime. It is critical for us school leaders and teachers to recognize the gender inequalities and stereotypes that we unconsciously allow to creep into our education system. Teaching equality in a cross-curricular way from different subjects to all areas of the school is the first step to combat inequality. According to research, the gender divide in children's career choice are expressed from as early as 3 to 4 years old. Those patterns are reinforced throughout childhood and adolescence. A Deloitte report found that 40% more boys took STEM, that is, science and mathematics related courses, and A-level subjects from girls. That isn't an expression of biological difference, though. Gina Rippin, a professor from neuroscience at University of Aston and the author of the book Gendered Brain, says that there's very little meaning gender difference in baby brains. That 5-year-olds, children become fierce gender detectives. They police gender norms by shaming and excluding behavior that falls to map on to the neat gender binaries, such as society, whichever the society has already fixed out for them. The conditioning you have as a girl to speak second and to put others first has lifelong consequences, she added. One of many factors that account for scarcity of women in positions of leadership, may it be in the political circles, may it be in leadership in companies, in the corporate business, or as in STEM. In general, boys are encouraged to be adventurous, risk-taking, while girls are too often silenced and praised for being neat, soft, and their achievements are not spoken about too much. Where young boys see other men in heroic and historical roles, girls are still left with princesses waiting maybe to wait for the prince or waiting for marriage. On average, around 30% of world's researchers are women. Less than a third of female students choose to study higher education courses in subjects like math and engineering. Some more statistics will surprise you. Women working in STEM fields publish less and often receive less pay. Less than 8% of women are CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. Women serve as heads of state or government in only 22 countries, and 119 countries have never seen a woman leader. Many educators endorse cultural gender stereotypes as well. These biases can be explicit, for example, something that is consciously endorsed, or implicit, which are unconscious, and they influence teachers, school leaders, and all kinds of classroom behaviors. Teachers have their own gender stereotypes and prejudices that shape their classroom behavior in various ways. First, the teachers often model gender stereotypical behavior. Female teachers, for example, often exhibit math phobia behaviors. Then teachers often exhibit differential expectations from boys and girls. For example, they would, be okay with the boys raising their hands more, giving them maybe more chances, maybe in preschool doing more dress-up areas for them, and more construction centers for boys. Gender differentiated use of school materials do come from the teachers as well. Third, teachers facilitate children's gender biases by making gender as important by using it to label and organize students many times. In one study, teachers were asked to use gender to label children and to organize classroom activities through gender. For example, greeting children like, "Good morning, boys and girls. How are the girls doing? How are the boys doing?" And asking children to line up by gender. Other teachers ignored students' gender. Young children whose teachers labeled and used gender showed higher levels of gender stereotyping. Then their peers, where the gender biases were not used. Preschool teachers labeling and using gender increase their pupils' gender stereotyping and avoidance of, cross-gender playmates bring in a lot of problems later. So what I always say is that gender equality starts from homes, but it is also reinforced in our schools as young as places where the kids have just entered in preschool, and then it keeps going on till they leave school and go to college as well. As young as age 6, girls start to perceive themselves as less intelligent than boys. According to a research, it is critical for us school leaders and teachers to recognize gender inequalities and stereotypes and prejudices. So how would you assess the state of equality in your school or classroom? Just ask these questions. Do girls and boys play together and under non-gendered stereotype roles? Do you use gender-inclusive language in and out of school? Do you show inspiring female figures in your lessons? The books you choose for your library has equal number of male and female protagonists or not? Also, let's check what are the kind of statements that we are making in the school. Girls are neater, boys aren't. Math is easier for boys than girls. Let's divide the class into teams, boys and girls. Make 2 separate lines for girls and boys. These phrases are used very often in our schools. Gender stereotypes continue to exist, and they might not end if we don't bring the change. They can affect how students feel about different subjects. For example, girls tend to have higher math anxiety than boys, despite minimal or no difference in math performance between girls and boys. By the time girls are ready to choose the subjects in higher classes, very often, because of the fear or the socialization that they've been told, very often that math is difficult and girls can't do it, they drop math and science subjects a lot more than boys. Even in the subjects where there are gender differences, the differences are small and likely due to societal expectations, they become really large. According to Center of Educational Neuroscience, the assertion that girls and boys have different cognitive abilities is a neuromyth. They emphasize that any existing differences are not relevant to academic potential at all. But still, we see a lot of differences coming in performance of various subjects. An earlier childhood longitudinal study found out that no average gender gap in maths test scores existed when the boys and girls entered kindergarten, but a gap of nearly 0.25 standard deviation developed in the favor of boys by around second or third grade. So what is it that we all educators need to do? We need to change the narrative. We need to make sure that our schools are gender equal. We need to make sure that our teachers are trained to break these stereotypes, come out of these biases, and give our children a more gendered education, ungendered education. So let's stop promoting gendered toys, gendered books, gendered roles, gendered biases in teaching, and help make our schools gender equal and change the statistics as equality also doesn't have a gender. And we need to keep it that way. Let's change the narrative together. Looking forward to many teachers, educators, and school leaders making gender equality in education a priority as well.